On today's Locked On Twins, we're going to talk about the Anthony DeSclafani injury and why everyone seems to be making it out to be more than it is. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, hi, and howdy. You are with us again here at Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And I am joined by Mr. Dave Brown at Answer Dave Brown on the tweets. Dave, how's it going tonight?
Hi, people. It's going great. We're one day closer to the first day of the season, although for some teams that's sooner than others.
Yeah. Isn't it extremely soon for the Soul series here, which is coming up?
The Soul. Remember Soul Train?
No, but I go with I got soul, but I'm not a soldier. That's my old The Killers from when I was like a senior in high school. So that's what I go back to. But
yeah, so we got about 7.5 hours until first pitch right now.
You gonna be up?
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if I will either. Probably not. Well, thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And of course, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. We love to encourage you to be active in the comments, active on YouTube, giving us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. By the way, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Dave, the Twins Twitter sphere was all a Twitter, I guess. Twitter paid it. I don't know. It was a mess.
Chuckle.
Yeah, it was a mess. Tony Disco, we don't even know how much time he's going to miss yet. Certainly seeing Dr. Meister, Mr. Mista is not good. But the number of people trying to relitigate this trade for Jorge Polanco as akin to the Tyler Mahle trade is downright hysterical.
People don't like injuries, and they also like to be proven right. You know, I was right when the Twins traded for this guy and he had a history of injuries. Of course, that overlooks the fact that everybody has a history of injuries pretty much if you're a pitcher in the major leagues at this point. So, I mean, even our beloved Pablo Lopez had bouts of shoulder fatigue and general fatigue. And I served under general fatigue back in one of the Gulf Wars. And that's why it took so long to win those. He wasn't a very good general. Tired speeches. But it's everybody has an injury history. Everybody poops, like the book says. The kids.
What book is that?
I think it's Everybody Poops.
No, I'm kidding. It was the title track from the self-entitled album Everybody Poops.
So and people are just pooping all over Anthony DeSclafani, Tony Disco,
or the Twins for trading for him.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, like I told you so, but you know, he was. I had hope that he would be healthy and a better pitcher than he was last year, but it's just not to be. But yep. I think you can also the Royal you can make too much of a big deal out of nothing there as well. So they have Louis Varland, they have other people in the minor leagues. There are other moves the Twins can make. It's not the end of the world.
As we know it, I feel fine. Hey, if I were to go on FanDuel and pick who would have thrown more innings for the Twins this year between Justin Topa and Tony Disco, what kind of odds do you think I would have gotten for Topa? Because I feel like for all we knew about DeSclafani coming into this season, the odds of Topa throwing more innings were still probably pretty strong.
Yeah, especially when, if they were still taking bets after we learned that DeSclafani was feeling, elbow issues once he started throwing, they might have taken it off the board at that point. But yeah, it's, I think the odds would have been pretty good that, depends on what you mean by good odds. But yeah, Topa probably would have been a better bet to have more innings than DeSclafani, just because it appears that the elbow stuff was going to continue for a while. So yeah, he's but like we said, this is something that all pitchers go through, or virtually all of them, at some point in their careers. I don't think that the Twins have to be browbeaten for adding a pitcher like that. It's hard to avoid guys that haven't had some kind of injury history. So that's just another one of those guys.
Yeah, and I'll bring up, I actually did a little bit of mining some data analysis, push up my glasses because
Good for you.
to find out what $4 million would buy you for a free agent pitcher this offseason. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Do you think this injury, and again, we don't know that much about it, but it's certainly not looking promising. Do we think this is going to make them change course at all whatsoever? I mean, I think the writing was kind of on the wall that they were going to be okay with Louis Varland taking a rotation spot if it came down to it. But if that list is winnowed down to where DeSclafani isn't an option for even, let's say, 50, 60 innings like they maybe had initially earmarked, how much does that alter your plan? Or do you just kind of be like, you know what? We were going to roll with the punches until the deadline anyway. We're going to continue to do that.
I think it depends on where the other dominoes fall. I think this doesn't necessarily change anything. Just the absence of DeSclafani, basically because they have Varland ready to go, which is what they were going to try and do anyway. It also, sort of puts that into a perspective of, well, maybe they were thinking this was going to happen at some point with DeSclafani, and they weren't going to have him for the long haul anyway. So that's why they were so receptive to, sure, Louis, you can be a starter. But with Paddock still coming back with exactly what they are going to get out of Louis unknown, and with the other, ups and downs of pitchers, as we said, they're all subject to these injuries. I think it's going to take one more bad bit of news before they change any course. And I think some of that also has to do with people like Simeon Woods Richardson and David Festa and other people they have in the minors who, could get a shot first. So I think that's probably where they'll look first. But if anybody else goes down, I think they'll pivot at some point, maybe sooner than we thought.
Who are you most eager to see of the pitchers who will probably not be in the opening day rotation? So if you were to take Varland and put him in the equation as not allowed for this conversation right now.
Okay.
Who are you most eager to see? Because I think for me, it's Simeon Woods Richardson, just because, we've seen him in the big leagues. Part of the intrigue for me with a prospect is when you break the seal and kind of see that guy for the first time, and you understand that the expectations shouldn't be high because the first time you're in the big leagues is hard. But there's just so much to be encouraged about with him. He's gone through some struggles in the minors, which has to be good for, I think, his character in terms of moxie or in terms of perseverance, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But he's also, he was a big time prospect. Again, he's been traded for Marcus Stroman. He's been traded for Jose Barrios. This is not a guy who, if he's successful in the big leagues, it's going to be a complete surprise. So I think I'm most excited to see what he brings to the table of the guys on the outside looking in. And maybe there aren't enough guys to really have a distinction there. Maybe you're going to say the same. I don't know. I'll give you that chance, I guess.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with that, and just maybe to be different and talk about a different guy. I'm interested. David Festa wasn't he's not on the 40-man roster, so it would take some maneuvering, and maybe we'll see what the injury with DeSclafani is. It might be that. If they convert DeSclafani into a 60, then that would open up a roster spot for someone like Festa. And he's been sort of relegated to the sunk cost bin, but is it over for Randy Dobnak? Is that it?
Right.
For real? I mean, probably, but I think maybe he can kind of regenerate his career a little bit and be something of possible value. But then you're kind of getting into territory where I think part of the plan for the Twins this year had to do with not being able or interested by ownership in spending lots of money on a starter, so they went kind of the depth route. And once you start getting into the Dobnecks of the world, then you really sort of have to kind of prepare yourself to look outside the organization. Good news there is the Twins, if they don't have somebody in the minor leagues to bring up to the rotation, if they have to, they have trading capital to make a move for somebody else later on. So, that might not come until July, but I think that's we'll see Simeon, maybe we'll see Festa, and then after that, they'll go outside looking.
Simeon, Festa, and then maybe some of the rest. I was thinking, hey now, don't dream it's over when you were talking about we don't know if something's over, but again, my brain kind of dances along that sort of thing. Let's give some love to PrizePicks when we come back. I want to talk to you about what $4 million buys on the free agent market. And also part of that, though, one thing that I can give some credence to, or I can allow. But again, first, a word from PrizePicks. PrizePicks is North America's largest daily fantasy sports platform. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you and the numbers. Do you see the numbers in the room with us right now? Because I do. Instead of battling thousands, there's another number, of other players, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stats, another number, and watch the winnings roll in. And the app has a fun new feature called Demons and Goblins. Demon picks are marked in red, so they might get your heart going. They're a little bit scarier, but you can win big money, like 100 times the money you put down. $10 gets you 1,000, and that sort of thing. It's a big deal. But if you're more cautious like me, you can always choose a Goblin pick marked green because it's designed to keep you in the green and landing consistent victories that get you some of the green. The payout is less than a Demon pick, but your chances of keeping your winning streak going are much higher. If you're into the NBA, like me, watching the Timberwolves try to come back right now on the Nuggets, it's a good opportunity for you. You can pick more than or less than on everything from 3-pointers to turnovers to you name it. You can do it. And for spring training baseball, which is almost over here, I might add, you can pick more than or less than on pitcher strikeouts and first inning runs. So download the app today and enter code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And again, that's LOCKEDONMLB. It's all one word. It's all lowercase. And you can get that first deposit match up to $100. Join PrizePicks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Dave, I do want to give you, okay, so in an off season, like if you look back at the off season and you kind of think of like how you could have optimized your spending, you're certainly going to benefit from hindsight. Michael A. Taylor getting what he got from the Pirates compared to what Harrison Bader got. Okay, comparable players, whatever. So if you want to tell me that the Twins could have taken the $4 million they spent on, or will be spending on Tony Disco, and then let's say adding $4 more million, could $8 million get you Michael Lorenzen for this year, do you think?
Oh, at this point, I would say yes.
Yeah, so I mean, that's where I could see, I almost call him Jared Lorenzen. God rest his soul, Jared Lorenzen, the hefty lefty. So I gotta program my brain not to say that. But yeah, but again, you can't spend 100% efficiently either. If you knew that Sonny Gray would get more guaranteed money than Blake Snell, that would shock you. Again, there's deferrals. It's a shorter contract. We're not talking, AAV is different, but in terms of guaranteed money, it's at least a little surprising. So
here's the thing about that, the assumptions that people make, like how could they have spent the $4 million that they have to spend on Disc differently?
Disc golf.
Because he was in the trade, that affects what goes to Seattle and what comes back. All the other players that the Twins got in the trade, it's all wrapped up in partially what DeSclafani's salary is and what his kind of iffy status was coming off an injury. the Twins kind of took that on and got other parts in the trade that they wouldn't have necessarily gotten if DeSclafani wasn't in the trade. So it's there's a give and take there. It's not just a matter of, well, what if you plug in some other pitcher? You weren't going to get Wu or Bryce Miller or I don't know who else maybe the Mariners would have traded. So you know what I'm saying? You can't just take DeSclafani out. It made the salaries work. I mean, there's lots of puzzle pieces that went into the trade. It's not as simple as getting a different pitcher. So it's not that I want to cut your question off, but
no,
it's something that people need to understand that was part of the deal in the first place. So that you've got to take this as part of the trade as it relates to the other players that you're getting from the Mariners in the deal. So it's not as simple as people wanted to make it out.
Yeah. I mean, the upshot is you get a global top 100 prospect, a pretty dang good middle reliever. And then we saw Bowen. So there's a Twins development Twitter account that actually Do Young Park wrote about. And it's player development. You get to see like highlights and that sort of thing. And I don't want to get it wrong. Is it Darren Bowen? I know it's Bowen.
Darren Bowen. Yeah, really a great looking slide. They featured 2 or 3 guys today or recently.
He was one of them. Yep.
And his it's just a couple pitches, but they look great. I mean, he's got a really tight looking slider. Looks like it would play in the majors. The other guys looked all right too, but I don't know. They were kind of hanging the ball up in the zone, and these were the highlights that were given. So it's basically what we're looking at. But it was really encouraging, these few pitches that we saw Bowen throw. So I think he was sitting 95 or something fastball too.
94.8, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so I mean,
his motion to me looked clean. I'm certainly not the expert, but I thought he looked the part. He gave me kind of like a slight build. I'm trying to think of because it's not really Marcus Stroman, but like the vibe of a guy where you're like, oh, I thought there'd be more to him than this. But
you mean physically, like his frame?
Yeah. He's not. He didn't seem like that big of a guy. Do you want to hear a list? This isn't Bleacher Report 10 years ago, but there is a list that I pulled up of pitchers who signed for $4 million AAV or less as starters this offseason.
Yeah,
what do you think? So
let's do it.
At $5 million, there's Clayton Kershaw. Kershaw, obviously not counting for this exercise for a bevy of reasons, not the least of which that he's made a couple $100 million in his career. He's not going to pitch right away. He's dealing with a shoulder.
Right.
It's kind of a sweetheart deal with the Dodgers, whatever. But these, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think it's 11 guys are among those who signed for less than $4 million a year. You ready for this?
Okay.
I'm eager to see your reaction. You want me to start from the cheapest to most expensive or most expensive to cheapest?
Start with the most expensive. I don't know why, but that's
so there's 3 guys who signed for $2 million. Luke Weaver, who has long been more stuff than execution.
Right.
Spencer Turnbull, who was good, had a terrible arm injury, and who knows?
Right.
And then Carlos Carrasco, who we both thought would have made some sense with, the Falvey connection, but he looked 3 different ways of washed last season. I don't mean to be a jerk, but he looked finished. He looked cooked.
Right.
And so those are your $2 million guys. Those are your high end. Nobody between $2 to $5 million, according to SpotTrack.
Right.
At 1.75, we have 2 more guys. Joe Ross, who again, I think it's younger brother of Tyson Ross, if I'm not mistaken. But
right.
Again, back in the day, pretty good prospect. He's already going on 31. And this is not a kid anymore.
Right.
And it's the Brewers just taking a chance. The other 1.75 is Chris Flexen. Again, another guy that I would just have pretty much no interest in. At 1.25,
well, that's why he's on the White Sox, because they knew that no one would be interested in him other than them.
At 1.25, we've got Austin Voth. I do not know a ton about Austin Voth. I feel like what I had gathered from him, I was kind of reading about him, I don't know, maybe a year ago. he'd had kind of like a short spell in the bullpen where it maybe seemed like he could be better, and it was not going to materialize. But again, not that exciting. For $1 million, Colby Allard, who again, I guess is semi-interesting. He's 26, but you couldn't you're for him like any, and you'd be giving him a 40-man spot. And Zach Plesac, who I would have no interest in. The declining results, it doesn't seem like there's a good aura about him right now.
Really cool dog.
Far,
I met his dog last year, but that doesn't really help your pitching staff.
You said he has a cool dog?
He's got a very cool dog, yeah.
Yeah, well, dogs are by definition more cool than not. So I think I'll withhold judgment there. And then we had 3 who are fewer than $1 million or lower than $1 million. Ricky Vanasco, who I insist is Ricky Nolasco wearing a fake mustache.
Like Larry Hernandez.
Yep, Larry Hernandez. There was a bet going on last winter where it was like, has Felix Hernandez signed with the White Sox yet? And this guy, Bennett Carroll, who I think was a radio producer, he just kept pushing it like, when can we hear Felix on a minor league deal to the White Sox? So that's one of my favorite little bits that is nobody else will laugh at. But yeah, Ricky Vanasco, 25, but again, nothing that we've really got to get excited about. Josh Fleming got $850K. And then Ben Lively, who is almost 32, got $750K from the Guardians.
Lively made some good, I don't know what his final numbers were last year, but he made some good starts for the Reds. He kind of saved their bacon for a while.
He got a live arm, by definition. Anywho.
Ben's been pitching for a while. So.
Ben pitching. So they're paying DeSclafani half as much as the Pirates are going to pay Martin Perez, less than half for Wade Miley, Alex Wood, opening day Oakland starter Alex Wood. And I might add this. They're limiting replies on their tweets. What is up with that?
I think they opened them up. I think actually it was your complaint was the final straw. And I believe you can now reply to the A's on Twitter.
I'm not going to. And then how about this one? Tyler Mahle, 11 million AAV, almost 3 times as much as the Twins are on the hook for with Disco Fever, baby.
Well,
this is part of why it's not worth the discourse that took place today on Twitter.
I'll say this, and people, it's the news, it's what's going on, so people are going to get riled up about it. The other side of this is the Twins are going to have to bite the bullet at some point and spend some more money on somebody.
Absolutely.
So it's not, and it might be a deal where they take on salary. It might widen the net as far as who becomes available for them in trade. So it might not be a free agent that they're signing, but it might be some guy with a contract that's kind of DeSclafani-esque, DeSclafani-ish, and that mitigates the prospects that you have to spend. The Twins are, so in some form or fashion, they are going to have to spend more money than they want, or else they're going to possibly sink some kind of championship attempt if they don't.
All right, let's. I gotta do a quick spot for Game Time, but I have an interesting idea that you just kind of stoked. So congrats to you, I guess. But first, a word from Game Time. If you're looking for a tough ticket right now, and the Timberwolves right now are one of those, I had someone talking to me about, I used to be able to get tickets in the nosebleeds for 50 cents or, whatever, when hot dogs cost a nickel. They're a tough ticket to get right now, and everybody in town is crazy about Anthony Edwards. Did you see that dunk, Dave, that he had the other night or last night?
I did. Didn't I see some discourse about how that wasn't a dunk? Did anybody complain that it wasn't technically a dunk?
He threw it in the net and dislocated his finger, but not on the rim, but on John Collins' face. So lot to unpack.
That doesn't make it any less cool.
No, a lot to unpack there. But if you're trying to get to a Wolves game, Game Time is the way to go. You download the Game Time app, and it's a couple quick taps. You'll get your tickets. You can see what your seats and what your view will look like. None of those obstructed view surprises. when you get to the arena, the rink, the stadium, you know exactly what it's going to look like. You might not know if they're going to win or lose, but you got a pretty good idea of what you're going to see. There's last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, and again, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. I mean, you name it, they take care of it. And there's none of this bait and switch where you don't know how much you're going to spend. They tell you up front. You give you peace of mind, and they also have the game time guarantee, which means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets elsewhere in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you not only the difference, but 110% of the difference. It's going 110%, just like they always said when we were kids. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You got me thinking, what if Alex Wood has a nice season for the A's and they flip him to the Twins? Or Paul Blackburn. Now, the issue, or what maybe doesn't add up with what you said, was they probably don't have a contract to tack on for that to be beneficial.
Yeah.
And boy, that would look bad. They're already not spending any money on players to further cut your payroll. But again, not like optics have really mattered to John Fisher anytime recently. But I was thinking about that. Like, if you're going to need to make a move early, you're going to have to find a team that's completely out of it or close to out of it. And there's some guys in free agency who signed that could make some sense. Luis Severino, if the Mets don't do anything, I'd give him a look. You know, if the Reds fall out of contention, they've got some veteran guys, obviously, not any of their higher price like Sonny Gray, and I don't think they're going to do Lance Lynn again. The Twins wouldn't do that. But Sean Manaea, there's different guys who could make some sense in a trade. So I'll be eager to see what'll happen if other teams fall out of contention and the Twins go shopping.
Well, you're naming some decent guys. I don't know if some of those names are terribly better than Lorenzen, who's available now.
Right.
But, I think the Twins do have the capital to make a move for somebody like that. And there are going to be, I was looking at projected standings that some random person, I don't think it was a professional writer or anything, but I think they were kind of close. There were 3 or 4 teams who they were projecting wins to be in the 50s, the White Sox and the A's, and who else is racing to the bottom? There were 2 other teams. So, yeah, right. So, you're going to have some, the National League wildcard race could be pretty stacked, and that might prevent a bulk of teams from making moves at all. But there are going to be some really bad teams out there, and you can bet that there's going to be a couple of guys on each of those rosters who might be able to help a team like the Twins, and not necessarily at the deadline, maybe a little bit before too. So I think look to the bad teams to see how some of these individuals are performing. And you might find a Paul Blackburn, or I don't know if Eric Fetty wants to move again, but somebody like that. So we'll see what those things can conjure as we get closer to the deadline.
Yeah. Could be a Fetty wrap for him quickly in Chicago on the south side. A couple quick news and notes. Jose Barrios named opening day starter in Toronto. Really, my only takeaway there was he's got a mustache now, in addition to his beard, that I'm not saying he hasn't grown it before. Like, he was pretty clean cut with the Twins, but just a different look, but I like it.
Well, the Twins have to get a little, ornery out there. And if that means growing rogue facial hair, that's what they got to do. Really what has to happen is Vladimir Guerrero's got to hit like himself again. I think that's really what they're missing. So, good luck to Jose Barrios' face.
Right. Trey Cabbage, option to Sugarland, will not make the Astros. I know a lot of people kind of wanted the Twins to take a run at him. Obviously Twins former prospect who's absolutely mauled the baseball in AAA, but just was not going to be a fit. He won't make the Astros, but will be someone to watch because I don't know, big power like that, you never really know what could happen. And the Brewers optioned Jansen Junk to Nashville. No Twins angle here. I just wanted to say Jansen Junk.
Yeah. Who was he pitching the other day against? Junk against. I don't remember. It was a funny pun though. I think maybe Mike Petriello said it. It's like, oh, this is what happens when mom goes shopping at estate sales. It was Junk against. See if I don't remember, but dang, it was funny. Tell you what,
Yeah,
look that up.
I will. It's not going to be as funny as the the one in the NBA where they did a jersey swap. And have you seen that one yet?
Yeah, I'm
not going to go any further down the.
I can understand why they deleted that.
Yeah. Sorry, we're trying to remove it. Well, hey, Dave. There's been a lot of narrative shifts. I think maybe what we'll do with our next episode, if there's not much news for the Twins, maybe we'll make a short list of pitchers we think the Twins could trade for before July, because it takes special circumstances, but with multiple teams on a race to the bottom, it could get interesting.
I saw somebody tweet or maybe do a blog post about how, well, if Byron Buxton's hurt, here's 10 things the Twins can do to, people they can call up, or sometimes you don't want to borrow trouble like that. So, but let's be general about it and say, well, not naming anybody specifically, but yeah, we can look outside the organization for some mid-level dudes who they could bring in maybe sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about if a guy falls down the steps and sprains his ankle on a specific guy. We're going to keep away from the bad mojo.
That sounds like something that happened to you.
I literally went to the doctor for that yesterday. So, anywho, that's been it. That's it. That's wrap for Locked On Twins. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Easy for me to say.
Oh, you're welcome. You mean
we'll be back again in 23 and a half hours. But for Dave Brown, this is Brandon Warren signing off, saying we'll see ya tomorrow night.